Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, and I am Kisma. And today we're going to answer this question that we get many, many times and has been asked for centuries. What is intuition? Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set.
Well, hello there, Nick.
Hello there, Kisma.
What's going on with you?
Well, recording some podcasts.
I love podcasting.
Podcasting is fun. Yeah, it's really fun. Sadly, Podcast Monday, just getting off the ground, is going to not be, we won't be able to podcast on Monday evenings.
Why?
Because we're bringing back Monday night meditations up at the Energy Mastery Center. So we're leading meditations up there. If you're local to San Clemente, then you can come on up and meditate with us in person.
Nice.
So what happens is we'll do a little meditation together, and then we'll open it up to do short healing sessions for people. So like 10-minute healing sessions. After your meditation. So
right.
It's like an event. It's like a whole thing. I'm pretty excited to bring it back. Like it was like kind of a big thing, back when, Siobhan had previous centers, and now we're bringing it to San Clemente.
So exciting.
Pretty
Meditation
cool.
Monday.
Yeah. A little sad though, because I enjoy our podcast Mondays.
We'll find another day.
Yeah.
Probably Podcast Friday.
Podcast Friday, I think.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. See, pound that bag of chips.
We had no chips today.
We didn't. We had veggies.
We had veggies, yeah. So this episode about intuition was pretty much brought about because last week or 2 weeks ago, we have a guest that we're inserting in between or not. But we talked about FOMO, fear of missing out. And one of those pieces about knowing if you're to take action or not to take action is that internal speak, right? Because when we're looking for something that is being driven by the external world, it takes a great deal of discernment and understanding and objectivity to know if that's what we're to do. And that's where intuition becomes so helpful and really vital. So we thought we would devote this podcast to answering the questions, what is intuition? And what came to me is we can look at it in two ways. Number one, the linear scientific form definition of intuition, and which is something that arises through whether it's a red flag or a ping from a past experience. And scientists will talk about this in a linear way all the time. It's really well represented in a story about a race car driver. Some of you might remember this several years ago. There was a very tragic accident on one of the major NASCAR tracks. And there was one of the drivers who saved his own life as he was going around a turn, and he put the brakes on. And if any of you know about racing, you know that you speed up around the turn. I've never done this myself, but Nick has.
You didn't do that?
I didn't
you weren't there.
So you speed up going around the turn. So for a race car driver to brake is a very bizarre thing. And as he was braking, he didn't see the accident. His words were, my intuition just told me to put the brakes on. And they're like, how can that be? That's so weird. And so they did some observation after, and they noticed that in the videos, the crowd was looking ahead instead of at the track. And now you have to understand, these guys are going super fast. It was a split second of awareness through his supposed sight, real sight, that he saw the faces in the crowd looking forward. And that's what they deemed his intuitive center showed him something was different and to put the brakes on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a fascinating story.
Yeah.
You think about all the information that they're taking in, and that's true. Like that was the first thing that they taught us when we went and raced Ferraris at one time is like you accelerate through the turns, and to a normal person,
who's going to do that?
It feels totally counterintuitive. And, after you do it a few times, you kind of get the hang of it, but it still feels really uncomfortable. But to a NASCAR driver who's been doing that for years and years and years and thousands of times, it's entirely counterintuitive. And they're taking in so much information at such a rapid speed, and to make a split second decision like that without knowing, that is intuition. Like, it's the information is there, and somehow or another your brain calculates that. Like, good luck figuring that out.
Right.
Your brain calculates that information and makes a split second decision that can seem totally counterintuitive. Now, if he didn't follow that, or if he didn't listen to that,
he would have been probably killed.
Right.
Because he would have gone straight into the accident. Now, here's what I do know. Okay. He's going super fast. He sees the crowd. It's a split second. However, what happens in something like that? There is an energy shift. And so I do believe personally that not only did he see something that registered for a split second, he felt something. There was a difference in energy on the track, in the crowd, and whatever that just made him go, hold on, this isn't right. Something is off.
Yeah.
And I share that because it morphs into that other piece of intuition where we're not always seeing literally from our eyes, but we're feeling something. And it's important to notice that, because the linear scientists are going to be like, oh no, it's just, something that arises. You've experienced it before. Yet we can't ignore energy. From the quantum perspective, we can't ignore that our field will sense or feel something is off, especially the cleaner and clearer we get. And so we've got to listen to that.
Yeah. Well, what I think is interesting about that example, and in other examples where intuition gets really heightened for people, those intuitive sensibilities, is the total absorption in the moment.
Yeah.
So as a race car driver, you don't have a split second. You don't have a split second to lose focus. Like, that is not an option. As a musician on stage playing this intricate and sometimes extremely challenging music with absolute precision, you don't have a moment.
Right.
You don't have a split second.
Right.
And you can notice, because you've done it so many different times, you can feel when the orchestra is starting to go this way or that way, or starting to move this way or that way. It's a collective, it is a collective energy, and you've done it so many times, and you're absorbed in that moment that you become heightened. Your sensitivity to that becomes heightened.
Right.
I think a lot of times the reason that people get confused around this, and we can, come back to this if you want, but I think people get confused around it because they're just not focused.
Yeah.
They're just not clear in the moment. So there's way too much noise going on.
Yeah.
Which
creates doubt.
Right. Way too much up in the head, which is like all the other thoughts and everything like that, which creates exactly like you said, is it creates that doubt. And then your intuition is nowhere.
Right. Exactly. And so this is the piece. Like, I look at intuition as like, I'm going to step from the linear to the metaphysical, or the physical to the metaphysical, because I happen to believe, as I put this post up on my page, who believes in spiritual intuition? Is it real? And everyone's like, yes, yes. How could it not be? I agree with that. However, I will say, for a true spiritual intuitive line to be clean and clear, one must be doing their work to be clean and clear. Because I can sense when people sort of get that spiritual delusion or spiritual attachment. I'm so intuitive. I know we are required to be diligent in our work. And it's almost a let go of wanting to know and trying to know and telling people we know and receiving.
Yeah. Needing to know is like the thing that will kill your intuition.
Exactly. That's when the linear mind gets in the way, and then it becomes a battle. It's the letting go and the trust. And when you do get those pings, and some of you, in terms of the spiritual intuition, you will either hear, some of you might feel in your body, you might see, you might, like, I just get a direct knowing, like someone just syringed information into my brain. Sometimes I hear a voice.
It's a vivid picture.
It's just like, and it's like, okay, really? You just trust it. And the more you are playful with it, because you can question the intuition. That's okay. You can be like, really? And they'll be like, it'll come in louder. I do that all the time. Like, really? Are you serious right now? And it'll come in louder. Question it playfully, don't ignore it. There's a difference. Questioning is like, okay, I want to make sure, show me another sign. Really? When you ignore it, that's when it becomes dimmer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically like, okay, well, you got the message and you didn't take action on it.
Yeah.
So why would you get more messages?
Yeah. It'll become, sometimes it'll stay, but other times it will become dimmer. And then you'll be like, what am I doing? And confusion sets in. So there's another story that is pretty cool. We heard this from Glenn, one of our Vedanta teachers. There was this story, and I've shared it on so many webinars, a famous mathematician in Bombay in India. And he had his like office lab and he'd been working on this problem for a year. And it was like, you can imagine the mathematicians. I mean, it was like not my world people, but the formulas and the numbers and those weird symbols and just going on and on and on, trying to solve this problem. And one day it was like, done, don't have it, not going to get it. I am done. And like threw his marker down, locked up his office with all of these numbers, letters, things that I don't understand on there. And he left and he went down the streets of Bombay and hopped on a bus just to ride. He was like, I'm done. I'm never going to get the answer. So he gets on the bus and he's riding. And guess what happens about 20 to 30 minutes into the ride? The answer comes. And it's so freaking loud and it's so clear that he didn't have to write it down. There was no doubt. It was there the whole time.
Yeah.
It had to be unfolded in that very moment where he let go, it appeared.
Yep.
That's intuition. And how can we not say that's spiritual? Like it is there because it's a definition of the lifetimes that he's lived, the work, the knowledge, the universal intelligence space downloading into him. He just had to let go.
Yes. And
do not doubt me.
I'm not doubting you, but I want to highlight.
Do not argue with me.
I want to highlight a really important point there is that he did the work.
He did the work. That's really good.
Like that's a really important part. It's like, well, I'm just waiting for my divine download.
Good. I'll give you that.
Okay, great. And what work have you done?
Absolutely.
Are you really doing the work?
Yeah.
When you get that download, are you even going to be able to put that into action?
This is really, really great. I'm glad you brought that up. He did the work. He was prepared. So because then if he had not gotten the work, the answer would not have arrived, or if he did, he would have missed it.
He would have missed it.
Yeah.
And no, that's a really important point. Like there's probably a dozen more in there, but the two that really stand out to me are he let go.
Let go.
That needing
let go
to
and
have
let
it,
flow.
Needing to know it, needing to understand it, needing to see it, needing to have it right now. Like those are the things that will kill your intuition.
Right.
Or just like make a lot of anxiety that just makes it a lot harder to hear it,
Right.
So yeah, like you can get kind of like, tell me, like put your foot down, like tell me I need, like tell me the answer. But then you gotta shut up and you gotta
listen.
be quiet.
Yeah.
To really listen.
Well, and I'm sure he, and this was like a world-class mathematician. I mean, he was doing everything that he thought.
Yes.
And it was the moment where the attachment to getting the answer was let go of.
Yeah.
And when we've talked about attachment in our other podcasts, that like it's just deadly. It's the root of all agitation. So even that attachment, I've got to get this answer. I've got to get that next award. I've got to hold my space in the academic community. It crushed his intuition. The moment he let go, I was like, yep, not going to get it. Yeah. Boom.
Yeah.
And so how many times, for those of you that are seeking to build your intuition or to know, how many times are you in your own way with an attachment of needing to be right?
Needing to have it a certain way.
Thinking you know the answer, it's got to be this way. Let go of that attachment and have that super receptivity and do your work. I mean, we certainly have so many classes, courses, certifications on getting clearer, cleansed, being more tapped in, aligned. Then you can really hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it though, is do your work.
Yeah.
Like, do your work. Like that's the other part that really stands out to me is like, do the work. So that's why everything that we do is always grounded in action.
Right.
That it's absolutely
well,
critical.
if we're not in action, we're not formulating, the success on this planet, which we are obviously on.
Yeah. And taking that information and really integrating it into something that's valuable valuable and
Right.
useful in the world.
Right.
You know, useful, I think, is the best word for that.
Yeah.
Something useful in the world and useful in your life, you know, rather than just knowledge for like, okay, great. You know, like I have knowledge of my past life. So that's awesome. Like, what are you going to do with that?
Right.
How does that help you? How does that help you help more people?
I don't like when people start chatting about my past lives. I'm like, people, I'm trying to figure out this one. Let's like,
right? You know,
leave those. Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's cool. It's like kind of funny information to know about, but at the end of the day is like what's that doing for you, right?
Right.
What's the work that you're doing here and now?
Right.
And it's not just about knowing, you know, it's really about like, we need to do service. Like we need to help people and how we're using the work to do that. And that kind of intuitive quality helps keep you on that path to your highest and your best without so many impediments.
Exactly. And I want to insert here too, this is a great one for parents who have children all children are very intuitive because they're sponges. And before someone says, oh no, don't think that way, don't talk that way or whatever, they're hearing and feeling and sensing so much. So listen to your children when they tell you things. Just listen to them and avoid trying to squash it or change it or make it wrong or worry about it. Children are so intuitive, and oftentimes through just standard education or wanting our children to fit in a certain way, adults who love and mean well will temper it. Don't let them express.
Yeah.
Because the more they can tap into that intuition, it's going to carry them, especially the way the world is changing in education and technology. It's like, let them be tapped in so that they don't always need to go to Google.
Yep.
You know, we are so reliant on Google, our phones, our computers, and we're missing out on the biggest machine there.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember who said it. It was, there's a really beautiful quote. It says the illiterate of the 21st century is the person who isn't the person who can't read. It's the person who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Yeah.
And the I don't know if, like, to connect that to intuition is your intuitive in a sea of information and noise.
Right.
If you don't have access to your intuition and you don't take that really seriously,
right,
to keep it clean and clear, to keep that channel open, you might as well be just in a stormy sea in a frickin' rowboat.
Right.
Because
exactly.
There's so much noise to get.
You won't know which direction to go, what to do.
You have no way. You have no way to know what your true north is,
right,
and how to even follow that.
Exactly.
Or even to know which direction that is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. Let alone be able to move and paddle yourself in that direction.
Right.
You know. So it to me it is absolutely critical.
Right.
And it relieves so much stress.
Yeah.
Because what's the mechanism that we use instead of intuition is trying to figure it out in your head.
Yeah.
It's thinking it through.
Will.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It's a mental will, and it's needing to know. It's needing to know it all, needing to be right.
Which is needed as well. I'm not putting down the ability to solve problems, to think, to discern. That all comes with building a really strong intellect. When the intellect is clearer, the noise is smaller and the intuition is stronger.
Exactly. And it lets you follow that flow, which is really and truly a flow of energy.
Right. Exactly.
Like you said before, like you said it beautifully. It's like you're following that flow of energy to navigate through. It's never, ever, ever a straight path.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen that image before, like here's your success, like what we think it looks like. And it's this straight line, and what it really looks like. And it's just a winding mess. And it's not really a mess so much as but it is a winding road.
It's a winding road.
It is not a straight line there.
Yeah.
Anybody who's
kind of like Candyland. You got to get to the gumdrops and then whatever, the next little
wind around. Like it's going to take some twists and turns, and that is just the way that it goes. I listen to Jocko's podcast. I love it. I think I just think it's great. I really enjoy.
You geek out on that.
I do. It's a really different take.
It's a little harsh for me these days. I love Jocko, but it's a little strong.
It's a little intense. I get it. I totally understand. But one of the things that I always took away from that, and it was in his book too about extreme ownership, is that, they spend a lot of time planning, a lot of time in planning, and the plan has never gone exactly according to plan.
You mean the military?
Yeah. This is a Navy SEAL. Sorry about that. Yeah. Jocko podcast. Jocko's a former Navy SEAL. He was a commander in Iraq. He teaches leadership, and he has a book called Extreme Ownership. They talk about that. Like, okay, we did all this planning. We spent all this time, and they never don't do that. Like, they always plan and over plan, and it never goes according to plan. It's like, I can count, not even on one hand. I don't even need a whole hand to count the times that it's actually gone according to plan.
Yeah.
And that's our lives.
Yeah. Correct.
And they don't not plan.
Yeah. They plan, and they're super receptive to what needs to change or pivot in the moment.
Exactly.
And they get so entrained with each other. Like, if that is an intuition, I don't know what is. Like, when you read about that, how they are purely entrained.
Yep.
And it's like they move like a flock of birds.
Yep.
Wow, it's so beautiful.
Right. And it brings us back to that part of doing the work. You think about like a great orchestra. You think about like, these are special ops, right? Or a team, if you ever watch hockey, like, oh man, like it's such a fast game. Like it's so, all of these highlight really clearly like the training that they do in order to be so responsive and fluid in the moment that they can adjust to any situation.
Exactly.
And that's a really important aspect of intuition,
right?
Is doing the work to build that muscle to be that receptive.
Yeah.
And like you said, I keep coming back to this because it's just the coolest thing is that moment of letting go.
Oh, let go and let flow, baby.
Because you can guarantee that, well, in the military, if they're holding to their plan and the situation changes radically, they're dying.
Right.
In an orchestra, if that happens, the stakes aren't so high.
Yeah, but you might be out of sync and like be in big trouble.
It's going to be an embarrassing mess, and the orchestra can fall apart, which is never good.
Right.
Everybody looks and feels bad about that, and in a game, like they'll lose the game or like whatever the situation is. Like, it doesn't have to be life and death stakes, but at the end of the day, really being in that intuitive flow and having that ability in a business, if you don't have that, if you don't have a pulse on those things, your business won't last.
Right.
You'll be stuck in an old way of doing things. You won't be current, and you'll be 5 steps behind.
Exactly.
And then somebody else comes in because that's how noisy it is. Then somebody else comes in and it's a red ocean before you know it.
Yeah, totally. Love it. So intuition, we've got the linear perspective, the red flag, the ping, the thing that happens because you've been through this experience before. And then we have the spiritual faculty, that which happens when you're really clean and clear and receptive to the downloads, receptive to the nuances of the experience, of the energy. And that to me is the magic.
Yeah, it is really magical. Yeah. And I don't think it's really important to know the difference between those two. I don't think it's like, okay, is this my linear intuition?
Oh,
is this my
not in the moment.
Intuition?
But
I don't think it's important at all.
I do. I disagree. I think only because if we get stuck in just it's related to past experiences, we're going to miss out.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, we're going to miss out on the download.
I agree with that.
Yeah, because that spiritual faculty we can't really describe.
Yeah, you're right. In the moment, I was thinking more in the moment of like,
in the moment,
who cares,
just trust. Trust.
Just trust and just
because
take
that's
your
the thing.
next step.
I have not met with a group of scientists to argue this point. They're talking about, you've been through this situation before. What about past lifetimes?
Yeah.
So it could go on and down the rabbit hole. To me, it's like, trust it. If you're hearing it, feeling it, seeing it, knowing it, trust it.
Yeah. Before we close out, I want to explore one more area of this is when people get into that, when do people get stuck in their intuition? They're like claiming to it of like, this is my intuitive hit. Like, and then.
That's the pretend checkout.
Okay. So tell me more about
that. They
pretend
and check out, and you'll see it in, people who are in a spiritual community and not taking action in the world. They'd rather check out, meditate, and bliss out. Feels good, get ungrounded. Yeah, I've been there. However, we're on this planet to take action. So when they're like, I don't feel like it, my intuition isn't guiding me, and they're not doing anything, they're pretending and checking out. Your intuition will very rarely ever tell you to not do anything. Your intuition is going to keep you in action and alignment with your soul.
Yeah. One of the ways that's really good. One of the ways that I look at it is when your quote unquote intuition is having you play to your least common denominator. Then
yucky.
Then you can be sure that you're off track, and that's not your intuition. That's your subconscious mind basically just saying, no, we're good here. Let's just stay here.
Right.
Your intuition is going to be leading you towards your highest and best. It's going to be finding that path of least resistance there, which for a little river can wind around quite a lot.
Exactly.
And so it might not always make sense, but if it's having you like, no, we're good, just stay here. Not your intuition. Your intuition will basically never have you play smaller and smaller and smaller.
That's really true.
Yeah.
I love it. So look, if you want to become clear in who you are, what motivates you, what your features are, take advantage just for one more week of Nick's very special offer of the Ultimate Life Tool. This is an amazing assessment that has over 100,000 points of data. And it will allow you to discover not just what your traits are, but what drives you, what motivates you. And another really special piece called alchemy. And this is relative to your field. And it's fascinating. There's a link in the show notes to register or to email info@sourcemovement.com if you need more information.
Yeah. The alchemy one is an interesting one because it will verify some of the intuitive hits that you get about other people.
Yeah.
About why you might get uncomfortable in certain situations, why you have a low level of tolerance in certain situations, and why in some situations you're just like, yep, I'm out.
Yeah, totally.
Alchemy is a huge part of that. And that's definitely something that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And that you want to understand about yourself, because at the end of the day, it's like you're wired up like no other human being. Like there's none like you, in the book, The Greatest Salesman,
Og Mandino.
What is it? The greatest salesman in the world? Yeah,
I am the greatest miracle on the earth.
Yeah,
I'm the greatest miracle.
No, I am nature's greatest miracle.
I'm nature's greatest miracle.
Yeah, and there's none other like you.
Yeah.
And what this assessment does is really give you a snapshot through the eyes of nature of like who and what you are and how you're wired so that you can really utilize that to your fullest and best. And we talk about it as like, okay, staying in your own lane, great. Well, like which lane? Like, I don't know which's my lane. This will tell you what your lane is.
Got it. Perfect.
So it helps you really stay true to that.
Absolutely does. Such a great opportunity to spend some time with Nick as well, coaching you through this. So
I'm super excited.
Yeah, I know it's changed our lives and many of our clients and students. So take advantage of that in the show notes or email info@sourcemovement.com and place ULT in the subject line. And until then, everyone, trust your intuition. Open, just tap your heart, open the channels, be receptive, and know that miracles show up in many different formulations.
Yeah. You know what piece that you shared that I think was coolest? Be playful with it.
Be playful with it. Your intuition does want to be playful.
Be playful with it.
Yeah, it'll show up much louder when you're having fun.
I love that. And that's something that I forget to do sometimes. So I really appreciate that reminder.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank
Glad
you.
I got that one.
If this was valuable for you, useful for you, if you feel like somebody else would need to hear this, please give it a share. You can find us on SoundCloud and Stitcher and iTunes and all over the Facebooks and other places. You know where to find us. But please give the episode a share and join in the fun. Like, share the love, everybody.
Thanks for being here. So much love. Namaste.
Namaste.
Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.